Mr. Pehr Svinhufvud served as the third president of Finland from March 1931 to March 1937. By his original occupation, he was a lawyer and a judge. He was born in December 1861 in the western Finnish town of Saksmäki and died in February 1944 in the southeastern Finnish town of Luumäki. He served as the regent or temporary head of state of Finland from May to December 1918, after having served as the first leader of the Finnish government, officially known as Prime Minister, from November 1917 to May 1918. He also served as Prime Minister from July 1930 until his election as President in February 1931. He did not become a president embraced by all the people because, as a classical conservative, he opposed the entry of Social Democrats into the government, while admitting that there could be good people among the Social Democrats. His father was Pehr Svinhufvud, a sea captain. His father died at sea off Greece in 1863. He spent his early childhood at the home of his paternal grandfather, Pehr Svinhufvud, at Rapola, where the family had lived for 5 generations. He attended a Swedish language high school in Helsinki. In 1878, at age 16, he enrolled at the University of Helsinki, where he graduated as a bachelor in 1881 and as a Master of Arts in 1882, majoring in the Finnish and Russian languages and Scandinavian history. In 1886, he graduated as Master of Laws. In 1889, he married Miss Alma Ellen Timgren. They had 6 children. His career in law followed a regular course. He worked as a lawyer, served at district courts, and served as a deputy judge at the Turku Court of Appeal. In 1892, he was appointed a member of the Senate's, or the Finnish government's, law drafting committee, serving in this position for 6 years. He also participated into the Finnish Diet or Parliament as a member of the Estate of Nobles in 1894 and from 1899 until the institution's abolition in 1906. He championed the Finnish autonomy or self-government during the Russification periods. Originally a moderate member of the Finnish Party or the Old Finnish Party, after his dismissal as a judge, he became a strict constitutionalist who regarded the resistance of judges and officials as a question of justice. He became a young Finn then. He served as a member of Parliament from 1907 to 1914, in 1917 and from 1930 until 1931. He was exiled because he had refused to implement the Russian government's orders, which he considered illegal, to Tomsk in Siberia in November 1914, but he returned from exile in March 1917. He led the Finnish government that drafted the Finnish Declaration for Independence and thus was known as the Independence Senate. He also authorized, along with his government, General Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim to form a new Finnish army on the basis of the White Guard, the mainly right-wing volunteer militia, in Finnish called Suojeluskunta. During the late stages of the Finnish Civil War, he led his government in the western Finnish coastal city of Vaasa. After Germany's defeat in the First World War and the failed attempt to make Finland a monarchy under the King of Finland, Friedrich Karl of Hesse. He was a prince of that German state, was elected. Svinhufvud withdrew from public life until 1930, when he was appointed prime minister for the second time, and he was active during that time only in the Suojeluskunta, or civil guard militia. In 1925, he was originally the presidential candidate of the then right-wing National Coalition Party, but he was in the late stages of the presidential election abandoned in favor of the academician Mr. Hugo Suolahti. Pressured by the far-right Lapo movement to change the government, the Finnish president at the time, Mr. Lauri Christian Relander, appointed him as the leader of a centre-right government in July 1930. After Relander failed to win his party's, the Agrarian Union's, new presidential candidacy in November 1930, Svinhufvud agreed to become the presidential candidate of the National Coalition Party, which this time stuck to him until the end. He very narrowly won the election by a margin of just 2 votes over the former president, the progressive or liberal Karlo Juho Ståhlberg. He resisted both communist agitation and the far-right Lapua movement's exploits. After the failed Mäntsälä revolt of the end of February and the start of March 1932, he firmly rejected the far right. He had a critical attitude towards the far-right political party, Patriotic People's Movement, that was established after the Lapua movement was banned as a treasonous organization. He was able, with a single radio speech, to discourage most rebels stationed in Mäntsälä from continuing their revolt. He had a critical attitude towards parliamentarism because he believed that the president could, after consulting the parliamentary parties, independently choose the government ministers. The longest serving of the 3 governments during his presidency was the narrow right-wing minority government of law professor Toivo Kivimäki that served from December 1932 to October 1936. He refused, however, the suggestions of a right-wing conservative Professor Edwin Linkomies in 1936 that parliamentarism be abolished and the president be given an absolute veto over the parliament's laws. He believed that the Finnish president had enough power to effectively govern Finland, provided that he was a strong personality like he considered himself to be. He refused to allow the Social Democrats into the government in the autumn of 1936, even though they were clearly the Finnish parliament's biggest party with over 40% of the deputies. And this was one of the main reasons why he was not re-elected president. In February 1937, he lost the election to the moderate agrarian Prime Minister Mr. Kyösti Kallio. After his retirement, he returned to his estate in southeastern Finland in the town of Luumäki. It is called Kotkaniemi or Eagle Cape. He died of throat cancer, I believe, in February 1944.